Hello learners, welcome to this course on preparation of research proposal in social sciences. I am Dr. Pratik Chaurasia, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Education, Banaras Hindu University. Today we are going to discuss our lecture number 40, which is based on budgeting in a research proposal. Today's lecture is very important in terms of managing your financial requirement and presenting it to the concerned person or institution. So let us begin. Key learning themes for today's lecture. What is a budget? Components of research budget, frame your budget, example of budget, how to attract agencies to grant fundings, best practices in budgeting, do's and don'ts of budget, and national and international funding agencies. So let us discuss all this one by one. First of all, the fundamental question that comes into the mind of a researcher, that what is budget actually, what does it mean, what does it contain, what does it signifies. So as you can see here on the screen, let us see. The budget is a detailed financial plan that outlines the estimated cost required to carry out a research project. It includes a breakdown of all anticipated expenses, both direct and indirect, over the duration of project, categorized by purpose, that is personnel, equipment, travel and material. Let us see another definition. The budget of a research proposal is a systematic, organized financial statement that enumerates the projected expense necessary for the execution of proposed research, categorizing cost into personnel, equipment, material, travel, and other direct and indirect cost. It reflects the need of the project in alignment with its objective, methodology, and duration. So you can see clearly that when we are talking about budget of a research, we are talking about the requirements that a researcher will have, and that requirements can be classified, can be bifurcated into different components like personal requirements related to equipments, related to materials, related to travel for going to a field and collecting data, and other aspect, miscellaneous aspects are there which a researcher needs to complete the research properly. And today's lecture is very important in sense of one thing, that you may have framed a very good research, you may have framed a very good research proposal, as well as you have drafted various components also. But as a researcher, you have to understand that every research requires some kind of finance. And as a researcher, you should have not only clarity about your research, that what is to be done, how it has to be done, at the same time you are responsible for managing the finance also. And it is very important for a researcher to understand that how to present, how to show your requirements in a decent manner and in a professional manner, as well as in an ethical manner, that how you are going to utilize some certain funds and what are your genuine requirement with respect to the research. Let us see here. In the research proposals, capping of the budget is also required. Very important. Capping of the budget is also required. It refers to the imposition of upper limits of restrictions on specific budget categories by funding agencies or institutions. These caps are designed to ensure financial accountability, prevent budget and prioritize spending on research objectives while maintaining fair and equitable distribution of available funding across multiple projects. So you can see here that we are talking about capping also. The first thing is that you have to prepare your budget, you have to show your requirement, your financial requirement, your equipment related material, other aspects, you have to show it. At the same time, your budget should have a certain level of capping also. And one thing I will highlight here, that this capping is specific to specific kind of categories. For example, equipment requirement, it will definitely have some certain kind of capping. Materials capping, it will have some certain kinds of a capping. Travel grant, definitely there should be some capping, and there are cappings for proposing the travel expenses in your budget. So let us move forward. Now, what is the importance of budget? Let us see here. A budget is a financial plan outlining projected cost of each component of research. Here you can see it is talking that outlining projected cost of each component of research. Now here we have to understand what is this each component. Components means what are the things you are requiring for your research, and you have some certain categorization of that. For example, how much money you required for paying to research assistant if it is there, how much money you require for buying some equipment or tool if it is there in the research, how much money you need for traveling, going to the field for collecting data and discussing with the things with the samples. So these are the things that a researcher has to take care, that how you will make the components of different aspects of budget in a more clearly defined way. Importance of budget, you can see on the screen. Ensures adequate resource allocation, first thing. Second, demonstrates planning and feasibility to funders. Helps manage time and cost effectively. And last, it encourages transparency and accountability. You can see here, as a researcher, now you can think over these components, that why and in what ways budgeting is required. Because in a research there are many things that you have to know, and not only know, you have to present to others also, that how you understand it. For example, when you are articulating your hypothesis, when you are writing your objective, you know that what you are going to do, but in a research proposal you are communicating it to the person concerned or institutions, that this is the thing what I wanted to do. Similarly, a researcher has to communicate financial plan also, requirements of the equipments, travel, other grants. So you can see here, it encourages transparency and accountability. Very, very important for a researcher, that when you prepare your budget properly, it gives transparency not to only you, but to the person, those who are examining it also, as well as it represents a sense of accountability, because you also know that what is required and what I am going to do. And similarly, others also, those who are looking into your proposal, they will also know that how accountable you are, how responsible you are, as well as how aware you are towards your requirement, and what will be the exact or tentative figures of that grant. A well crafted budget reflects the seriousness of a proposal. This is very, very important. All components are very, very important of a research proposal, but when it comes to budget, it becomes more serious because finance is involved there. So whenever you prepare your research proposal, look into these aspects, that how you are going to make your budget properly. Components of research budget. First is personal. Second, travel and transport. Third is data collection. Fourth, consumables. Fifth, equipment or software. Sixth, dissemination. And seventh, contingency. You can see here, let us discuss this all components one by one. In a research, there are various kind of requirements that you cannot express all in a one. Therefore, it has been suggested and recommended that whenever you propose your budget for the research, propose it accordingly. Means bifurcate the various components separately, so that you can show your requirement also, and as well as you have to follow the capping rules also. For example, you can use X percentage of total grant in travel. So you have to make that capping also. So personal budget requires research assistants or junior research scholars, fellows, field investigator, transcriptionist, whatever is required, you can take it into this personal component. Next is travel and transport, field visit and interview, most important. The very important component of the budgeting, which actually requires more amount as compared to other components of the budget. So here role of researcher and attentiveness becomes more crucial, that how you visualize your travel, how you visualize your field visit, that is very very important, and what kind of basic requirements you are putting into the budget. And please be make sure that you are not over budgeting your components, because the person or institution, those who are going to screen out your proposal, they know well that what is required and how much is required. So be very very punctual with these things. Third is data collection, printing, online tools, form. If you have any kind of a printing or any kind of a development of the tools, all that comes into this category. Fourth is consumables. You may require some stationery, some printing, or any other items that you are going to consume, that will come under the consumable section. Fifth is equipment or software. Generally, when we go in the social science researches, we require some kind of equipments which are different from the other disciplines. We require some other kind of software which are different from other disciplines, like when you need audio recorders. When you are going for conduct focus group discussion, then definitely you need audio recorder to store all the responses, and so that later on you can analyze it and come to the meaningful conclusion. Therefore, some equipment and software will be required. You can put it under these sections. Disseminations, workshop, report printing. Here I will just highlight this, that when you are preparing your research proposal, especially for PhD or for your PG dissertation, you are not going to add this dissemination section there. This is not required there, because you are not allowed to do any kind of workshop or dissemination there. But when you are applying for any research project, when you are applying for research project and you are making research proposal, then at that time dissemination section becomes very crucial, because in a research project there are several requirements which can be fulfilled only by workshop mode. So as a project investigator, you have to fulfill this thing and be very very specific towards what kind of a grant you are proposing under the dissemination component. Seventh is contingency, that will use for both kind of a proposal, whether it is for PhD, whether it is for getting grant from for a research project. Contingency, you can put approximately 5 to 10% buffers of unknown. The components are customized based on scale and nature of study. This is very very important and very very crucial, that every study have their different kinds of requirement, and it is not necessary that every study will have all the components in a budget, because there may be some studies those who have different kinds of requirement, those who have different kinds of need. So whenever you prepare your budget, look into these aspects, and all customization will be based on scale and nature of the study. Now, one another most important classification into the budget of a research that you are proposing is recurring and non-recurring classification of budget. So we have to understand a proper differentiation between recurring and non-recurring, and what is actually recurring, what is non-recurring. So you can see here on the screen, recurring funds refers to the financial resources allocated to cover ongoing operational expenses incurred periodically throughout a research project. These expenditures are essential for the day-to-day functioning and continuity of the project, and typically recur on a monthly, quarterly or annual basis. Some examples we can see here. Such expenses include personal salaries. Here personal salary means salary of research assistant, salary of project fellow if they are there. Consumables, travel, maintenance cost, and other project specific operational expenditures. They are often projected over the entire project timeline and are subject to annual budget review and approval. So, you can understand this recurring budget in a more simple way, that whatever finance you require for personal salary, consumables, travel, maintenance cost, and other project specific operational expenditures, that comes under the category of recurring grant. Now, what is non-recurring fund? Let us see. Non-recurring fund refer to financial allocation intended for one-time capital or setup expense, typically incurred at the initiation phase of a research project. Very, very important. You have to understand that there was no discussion of initiation phase of research project in recurring fund, because it is going on throughout the project. But when you are talking about non-recurring funds, it is specifically based on initiation phase of a research project. These are usually long-term investments in infrastructure or assets that do not require repeated funding over the project duration. Some example we can see. Common non-recurring expenditure include the procurement of scientific equipments, installation of research facilities, acquisition of specialized software or hardware, and initial setup cost. These are generally fixed cost and are not expected to appear in subsequent budget cycle. Here one more term is coming that we have to understand, that budget cycle is there. These things I am specifically talking about the research proposal, those who are meant for any kind of grant. When you are preparing a proposal for grant, there are budget cycle. You will get not all the budget. For example, if you have a 50 lakhs project, you will not be getting 50 lakhs all of a sudden, that you will get full 50 lakhs and then you can consume and submit your report later on. You will be given the budget in the cycles, different cycle. Here you have to understand it very importantly, that you will be getting budget through cycles. It may be one, two cycle, three cycle, four cycle, depending upon your proposal and institutional guideline, how they do, how they deal with budget. That is not fixed, but it will be there, that budget cycle will be surely there. So keep in mind that when you are proposing your budget, make and understand proper difference between recurring and non-recurring, because when you propose your non-recurring budget, you have to be sure that these budgets are given at the initial phase of the research project for establishing the system of research. For example, if you need any equipment for installation of research facilities, acquisition of specialized software or hardware, whatever you need at the initial phase in the form of these things, that will come under the category of non-recurring funds. On the other hand, you can see clearly when we talk about recurring funds, it is basically related to continuous fund. Continuous fund means when you are starting your project and till completion, whatever is required in a moving way, that month wise, quarterly or annually basis, that all budgets will come under recurring funds. And many a times institution requires the budget in a format that they need a clear cut bifurcation between recurring and non-recurring requirement by the project investigator. Now, how to frame your budget? Let us see here. The steps to frame an effective research budget. You can take a note of this also. First is list activities linked to methodology. Very, very important and very, very crucial for budget, that what kind of methodology you are using. Your budget is highly dependent on that. Let us discuss this with the help of an example. See, when you are using a survey method, then definitely you have to go to field. your travel expenses will be more. Try to understand this thing, that when you are going with a survey method, you have to go to field for collection of data. It may be case that you are doing survey in online mode also, that is a case too. But in a normal case, when you are going for a survey or when you are going for a face to face interview, you have to go to field, as well as you have to accommodate the subject for the time of interview also. Therefore, it is very necessary to make a differentiation between different kinds of design or methods of the study and their requirement. Another example you can see, when you are doing content analysis of some certain literature, then definitely you can collect all the literature on your table and you can do your research analysis without travel. So it's a simple example I've given. On the basis of that, you can understand that how you are doing your research design, what kind of research design you are adopting. See, accordingly you have to look into the research budget. Next is estimate cost based on real time data. This is very important, that as a researcher you have to be very vigilant about the real time situation. For example, when you are proposing the budget in software, for example, you want to buy some software and that software is of 10,000 rupees, and you are writing that I need 50,000 for buying that software. It means that you are not relating it to the real time situation, that what is actually required, what is the actual price, tentative price you should know. There can be bit variation. For example, different vendors have different kinds of a rate, but when you propose, it should be nearby. For example, if a software is of 10,000 rupees, you can propose 11,000 or nearby rupees, but not 50,000. Next is use categories like personal, travel, etc. This is very important. I am again emphasizing over this, that whenever you are preparing your research budget, be specific with categories, because if you are applying for research grant to any other institution, they are definitely having a capping over different components, and the moment you violate that capping rule, I am suggesting you that it may be case that your research proposal is very good, very sound, very appropriate related to the context and situation, but you may not get that fund because you have violated the capping rules. And the moment you violate capping rule, it shows insincerity and your unpreparedness, that you are not actually prepared for doing this research, because you may have some idea, that is appreciable, you may have some good idea, but you don't know how to manage finance. And if you cannot manage finance, ultimately you are going to suffer, and institutions are not going to give you that kind of grants. So categorize it properly, whatever is required in personal, whatever is required in travel, in other components, in buying equipments, and look into the captions provided. Next, create both detailed and short budget format. This is very important. You should have both kind of budget, short budget and detailed budget, because many a time when you go for a presentation of your research proposal, it is asked that you present your short budget in a quick span of time. Sometime they need detailed budget, especially when you are preparing your research proposal. A full-fledged research proposal requires detailed budget, that how you will do even a small thing, even if you are buying a stationery, paper, pencil, rubber, you have to mention it there. So these are the things, whenever you prepare your budget, look into these four components so that you can effectively frame your budget. Justify expense in narrative. This is also very important, that when you are going to provide some certain amount in your budget, you have to be very alert and based on justification, that why you need. For example, if you are proposing 4 lakh rupees under travel component of budget, then your methodology and your research should say that yes, you are going for different places and this much kilometer distance is there from your origin place, and you are going, coming, and this much amount is required. This is the normal fare of the taxi or whatever you are utilizing. All these things should be justified in a very specific manner, that through to and fro this kind of money, this kind of amount will be required, and I need to complete my research in this and this manner. Now you can see here on the screen a sample budget. One is detailed and second is short. We can discuss here that what is the basic difference between short budget and detailed budget. You can clearly see here that in both the budget, under different section, amount of money is not changed. Amount of money is not changed, you can clearly see, but the way articulation has been done is changed. For example, let us see here. When we talk about detailed budget, that is on the left side of the screen, you can see here research assistant in bracket 3 months is written. MO dot is month, 3 months, cost 30,000. But when we write in a short budget, you can see we are talking about personnel, simply personnel, 30,000 rupees. Now travel to 5 schools, and here I will highlight one more thing, that this detailed budget is also a kind of a miniature of the detailed budget, because when you prepare a full-fledged budget, you will have to explain it more. For example, when you write travel to 5 schools, you have to specify that how much distance is there and what will be that schools. So clearly you can see here, when we talk in the short budget section, travel to 5 school has been changed to travel and logistic, amount is same, 10,000. Third is printing and stationery. When it comes to short budget, how you have written tools and materials. Next, SPSS and Office 365 license. When you write short budget, you have simply written software or equipment, amount is same. Workshop dissemination, simply dissemination, contingency, and contingency will be as it is. So this is the way how you prepare your short budget and how you prepare your detailed budget. But one suggestion I am giving, when you prepare your short budget, you use the comprehensive terminology which cover more things. For example, travel and logistic. You are not specifying your travel plan fully, but you are specifying that whatever is related in a concluding thing, that travel and logistic, whatever is required, that is 10,000. So it's a simple differentiation between detailed and short budget. And whenever you are preparing your budget for research proposal, prepare both short and detailed. And when you are submitting research proposals, submit with detailed budget, and when you are asked to show or present your short budget, you can move accordingly. Now let us have a detailed description between this budget component, that how you will be using and how you will be identifying your different utilizations under different components of the budget. So you can see here on the screen that when we talk about budget component, personnel, what will come under this? You can see salary, wages for individuals working on project, very clear, working on a project. Example, PI, co-PI, research assistant, technician, whatever is there you are using. Equipments, durable items with long-term use and high cost. Example, lab instruments, computers and microscopes. Material and supplies, consumable, short-term use items, all these things are there. Equipment, software and other necessary tools. Travel, very important. Description, cost for field visit, conferences and collaborations. Example, flights, accommodations, local travel, etc. Consultant, you can see payment to external experts or organization. Example, statistical consultant, lab service and survey firm. Other direct cost, additional cost directly related to the project. Example, publication fee, training, participant incentives. Indirect cost, institutional overhead, percentage of total direct cost, admin support, electricity, infrastructure. Contingency, it's optional how you are supposed to ask and how you are writing it. Reserve fund for unfrozen expenses if allowed. Example, unplanned shipping cost, currency fluctuation buffer, etc. Now, how to attract agencies to grant funding? This is very important, that how you will attract, how you will prepare it so that you will be given grant. Making your budget proposal stand out. First, clarity. Easy to read tables with rationale. Very important. Whatever you have prepared, please have a clarity in that. Feasibility, realistic cost and time estimates. Flexibility, show adaptability in use of fund, how you are going to use, how you are going to utilize it under different sections. Innovations, including tool, the strategies that show value for money. Very important component. If you are providing it in a very nice manner, in a more clear manner, definitely the people, those who are investigating or identifying your research proposal, they will be attracted towards your research. Compliance, follow institutional or funder format strictly. This is very important, because when you are preparing research proposal, I have said in the various lectures also, I am highlighting it today also, whenever you prepare your research proposal, first of all you have to look into the requirement of the institution to whom you are applying. What is their format? If the required format in a different way, go with that things, but component will be there. Whatever component we have discussed, it will be there, but how they need, you have to look into that. A precise, practical and policy aligned budget can make or break funding chances. So it is my suggestion and recommendation that whenever you want to get fund, please look into these aspects of your budget also. Do and don'ts of a budget. Do's, align with objective and methods. Very important. What is your objective? What is your method? Look into that. Whenever you are writing your budget under different components, look into your objectives. Justify all cost item. Very important. Do not write any amount vaguely that you have required 50,000 rupees, but for what, you don't know. Justify it in the budget section. Update cost estimate regularly. Follow funder formats and policy guideline. Again, I will highlight it, that in what format institutions required you to submit your proposal as well as grant plan, budget plan, do accordingly. Maintain transparent digital record. That is very important. And don'ts, what you not have to do. Ignoring inflation or updates. Over or underestimating expenses. Do not do like this. Missing hidden cost, permission or printings, and misalignment with method or scale. Do not do this. So whenever you prepare your budget, look into this do and don'ts. And now some major national funding agencies. First is ICSSR. They provide in the socio-economical, political, educational and cultural issues. They ask for research project and they are providing funds. ICHR, historical studies, archival research, translation and history education. ICPR, philosophical, logical, ethical, Indian philosophical tradition. It is the Indian Council for Philosophical Research. Ministry of Culture, Indian heritage, languages, literature, travel study, folk culture, etc. NCERT, it has a division IRIC that provides the grants on school education, teacher education, pedagogy and curriculum research. UGC, University Grant Commission, academic research, higher education, development and other innovations. DST, SERB, Science Society Interface, social implications of technology and interdisciplinary themes. And in the last, we have Niti Aayog. They also provide funds for policy research, development indicators and social equity. So you can clearly see here that some of the major national funding agencies in India. There are other agencies also, but these are the major funding agencies, and they ask for different kinds of a research proposal under their requirements, like school education, teacher education, historical research, philosophical research, socio-economic and political education. So you can apply there, but it is very important, I am again highlighting, whenever you prepare research proposal for research grant, the things will be bit different. You have to follow these institutions, or to whom institution you are applying, their parameters and requirements. And whenever you are writing your research proposal for PhD or postgraduate dissertation, this budgeting section will not be detailed. Some major international funding agencies also: UNESCO, National Science Foundation, Spencer Foundation and Ford Foundation. These are the international agency, those who provide fund in the field of social sciences. And concluding discussion for this lecture, major takeaways: budgeting is vital for research planning and ensuring the feasibility of the research plan. Very important, especially when you are preparing a research proposal for having some grant. And when you prepare a proposal for research grant, you have to be specifically inclined towards your financial requirements in a more specific and clear version. Second is match budget formats to propose detail for grants, short for internal use, and know the priorities and formats of funding agencies. And third and last is budget guides efficient resource allocation, supports the justification for funding request. An ethical and well crafted budget increases the chance of a proposal being selected. So these are the major takeaways from this lecture, and I hope you understand that how to form a budget and what are the major precautions while you form your budget for the research proposal. So this is all from this lecture. Thank you so much.